Let us discuss about beans. What is bean? Coffee bean, Mr. Bean, Mrs. Bean. Do you know any other beans?
Bean bag.
Bean bag, okay.
Soya bean.
Okay. Enough beans. So let me tell you what is the exact meaning of a bean. Anything which is reusable is called as a bean. Anything in software, in object-oriented programming, anything which is reusable is called as a bean. Now tell me, if I write a Java class, is it reusable?
Yes.
Yes. How do you say that it is reusable?
Using the concept of inheritance.
Not about inheritance. Once I define a class, I can create 100 objects of it, 1000, 1 lakh objects. So once I define a class, I can use the same class definition to create n number of objects. So I can say that Java class is reusable. But now if a Java class is not having default constructor, right? Let us assume that it is having only one constructor, and that too it is parameterized constructor. If you don't know what parameter to pass to that object, will you be able to create an object of that class? No, right? But still, can you say that the class is reusable? Yes, if you know how to construct that object, if you know what to pass to the constructor, right? So generally, every Java class is reusable, but a class is not 100% reusable if it does not have a default constructor. If a class is having default constructor, everyone can create an object by using default constructor, and we can start using it once it is constructed, right? So I can say that a class which is having default constructor is 100% reusable. True or false? True. A class which is having default constructor can be reused 100%. We can create objects. But if a class does not have a default constructor, still it is reusable only, but is not 100% reusable. You can use it only if you know how to create an object by passing the constructor, corresponding value to the constructor. So every Java class, can I call it as a bean? Strictly speaking, a Java class which has a default constructor is called as a bean. But generally speaking, every Java class is a bean. Okay? So nowadays the term bean is being very used loosely. Okay? Every Java class is called as a bean. But strictly speaking, a Java class which has default constructor is a bean. Okay? There are again different types of beans. If you go further in J2E, you have something called as EJB, Enterprise Java Bean. There also the concept is same. There also Enterprise Java Bean is also reusable. But there, Enterprise Java Bean is not a single class. It is called as a component. It is not a single class. It is a combination of some classes and some XML files which you treat as a single component, right? But if somebody asks you what is a bean, something which is reusable is called as a bean, right? Now once you understand the concept of bean, now let us see the same session application. In this application, my first page will be asking for a name. Once I submit, it is going to ask city.jsp, and here I am storing, getting the request parameter name and storing it in session name, right? Once I submit this one again, it is going to ask country.jsp. If I go to ask country.jsp, what I am doing? I am again getting the request parameter city, storing it in session, right? So how many attributes are there in session till now? 2, name and city. This is a very simple application. In one form I am taking only name, but if you take some serious application, some registration form, if you try to fill the registration form for Facebook, your favorite Facebook or Orkut, you have to fill a lot of information, right? Lot of fields will be there, right? Now, once I submit, suppose take an example. In this askName.jsp, here in this case there is only one input type. Let's assume that there are 10 input types. Once you submit, 10 request parameters will be going or not if there are 10 input types. 10 input, 10 request parameters will be going. Now in the next servlet, next JSP, what you have to do? You have to get those 10 request parameters like this, whatever I have done like that, and then store 10 attributes in session, right? Like that. If I have 5 pages in my application, and each page is taking 10 input types, 10 text inputs, then how many attributes will be there in session? 50, 10 into 5. 5 pages are there in each page, then 50 attributes in session, right? And we are humans, we do spelling mistakes. When setting an attribute, I am using one name, but while getting an attribute, if I type a spelling mistake, it will show me null, right? So the lesson here understood is, when you have a lot of attributes to be stored inside a session, instead of storing individual attributes like name is one attribute here, city is one attribute, country is one attribute. Instead of storing individual attributes, what you can do is, you can create a class called employee, right? In session, you manage only one object. Only one attribute will be there in session, employee. Okay? Then employee will have name, city, country, whatever, setters and getter methods, right? So now, instead of maintaining 50 attributes in your session, it is always good to have one class employee which will have all the variables and setters and getters, right? In session you will be managing only one employee, right? So will it not be good for maintenance if I maintain only one attribute in session? While getting, if I want to display employee, what I will do? Session.get attribute, I'll get employee object. Then to display employee name, employee.get name, employee.get city, employee.get country. I will not do any spelling mistakes, right? So instead of managing 50 attributes in session, it is always good to manage only one class like employee. In employee, it will be having all the 50 instance variables, setters and getters, right? So now in this case, what I want to do is, I want to modify the same program. Okay, instead of setting name individually and instead of setting city individually, there are 2 attributes, right? I don't want to manage that many attributes. I want to manage only one attribute called employee. Okay, let us see how I will modify it. Just see for some time, I will give you time later. Okay, I am going to create a class called employee which will have name, city and country. I am just going to create a new class. Package first, com.accenture dot beans. I am creating a class called employee, or a class called user simply. These are user details. User, I'll have all the variables: private, string name, private string city, private string country. So in my application, it's very so simple application. I am having only city, name, country. Okay, so I created 3 variables and I generate getters and setters. Okay, now tell me, is this user class, can I call this class as a bean? Yes, it is having a default constructor. So only one mandatory rule to call a class as a bean is to have a default constructor. Some other non-mandatory rules are, all the variables should be generally private and give public getters and setters. So if you want to call a Java class as a bean, the mandatory rule is it should have a default constructor, and other non-mandatory rules are private variables, public getters and setters. So now I can call user as a bean. Okay, now once I have this, see here, my first page is, this is my first page, ask name.jsp is my first page, right? Once I submit, it is going to ask city.jsp. Okay, let me open this ask city.jsp. Here, what I want to do is, I don't want to set this name as attribute. Okay. What I want to do is I want to create an object of employee. Sorry, employee, not user. I want to create an object of user. User from this one, com.accenture.wins. Once I use control space, see automatically page import is coming here, right? It's always a good practice to write all the directives on the top. Control C, Control X, and I'm pasting it here. Okay, I'll just remove this error page now. User U is equals to new user. What is missing here? Yeah. Now, session dot set attribute user comma u. I am setting that user object in session. Then what I am doing is I am saying u dot set name, and I'll pass the name. Okay, now what I did, see here clearly, I got the request parameter. As this is my first time I am using a session, I created a new user object, set the user object in session, right, and I set only name because I got name here. I am setting only name, right? Now user object is there in session, which is having only name. City and country are still null for user object, right? Now see here. Okay, I'll remove this if condition which I wrote earlier. Okay, now see here. Once I submit this page, where is it going? It's going to ask country.jsp. Now I'll open this ask country.jsp. See here, I'll modify. Previously what I was doing, I was getting the request parameter city and setting it in that session. Now I don't want to set city in the session. I already have user object in session. First I will get it. Session dot get attribute. What is the attribute name? User. I'll typecast it to user object. Once I use control space, page import comes here. I'll cut and paste it at the top. Okay. I'll take it inside user object. User U is equals to. Then what I want to do is U dot, tell me, set city, and I'll pass the city. Now tell me, when by the time it comes to ask country.jsp, in session only one object is the user. In that already I have set name, and now I have set city, right? Now again if I click on this, it will go to display.jsp. In display.jsp, see what I'll do. In display.jsp, I'll write a scriptlet first. Here I'll get the attribute session dot get attribute. The attribute name is user. I will get the user object. User U is equals to. Then am I getting any request parameter to this display.jsp? See, once I submit this one, country is coming as request parameter. What I'll do is I'll say I'll get request parameter request dot get parameter the request parameter name is country. I'll take it in string. Then I'll say u dot set country, right? Now by this time name is in name. How many attributes are there in session? Tell me. By the time it reaches the last page, this is last page, how many attributes are there in session? Tell me. Only one attribute. User is the attribute. Only user object is the attribute. Inside user object, it is having name, city and country. Right. So now I got the reference of user which is present in city in session. What I will do is here to print the name. Is there any session attribute called name now? No. Only one attribute is the user. Right. So I should not do like this. I should say user dot. Already I got the user object which is in session now here. Now I will write like this. U dot, I should call getter method, get name. Similarly, U dot get city. Here also U dot get country. So this will display all the usernames, name, city and country. But what I achieved here, why did I do like this and what I achieved here? See, in previous application, how many attributes are there? Name, city, country are there in session, 3 attributes. But now how many attributes are there? Only one user, and user is having name, city, country now, right? So this is the best way. So whenever you are setting attributes, it is always better to have beans inside the session as attribute. Instead of having individual attributes like name, city, country, it's always good to have one class, one object of a bean inside the session, right? It's very good for maintenance also, right? So these are basics. Is JSP easy or servlet is easy? JSP is easy. So don't want to write servlets at all? Yes? Why do I write servlet? JSP is easy, right? Anyway, JSP is converted to servlet. So why do I write servlets? I will not write servlets. But will it be a good program? I feel that in JSP, if I am seeing a Java code, is it easy to understand Java code inside JSP? No, it is not so easy to understand Java code. Okay, I will show you the another code here, which I wrote earlier in error. See now, are you able to understand this Java code and combination of Java code and HTML easily? No. So when JSP was introduced, the experts in the industry started using JSPs. They are happy. Oh, we can write a Java code inside JSPs and no need to write servlets. They are happy. They wrote a lot of JSPs. After writing a lot of JSPs, they got bored. It is difficult to debug these JSP pages, right? Then they thought it is better to use a combination of both. Java code is good for writing business logics. Java code is good. Servlet is good for writing the Java code, and JSP is good for presentation, only for displaying purpose. So they thought it is not good only to use servlets, or it is not even good to use only JSPs. A combination of both is a good thing, right? Servlets are good for writing Java code logic, and JSPs are good for presentation, where you want to show something. Only presentation logic should be present inside the JSPs, right? So till now what we are doing in our JSPs, we are writing some Java code also, right? So experts decided, no, it is not a good practice to write Java code inside JSPs. We should try to avoid Java code inside JSP totally. So our final aim by the end of the day will be not to see any Java code inside the JSP pages. I will try to avoid all the Java code inside the JSP pages. Okay. So now let us see how to avoid it. Now, if you take this, is there any Java code in this first page? No. No Java code at all. Second page, Is there any Java code? What is this Java code doing? It is creating a bean, right? It's creating a bean, then setting the bean inside a scope. What is the scope here? Session. In servlets, we understood about 3 scopes. Request scope. If I set an attribute in request or set attribute, we say that it is having request scope. If I set an attribute in session, the attribute is in session scope. If I set an attribute in servlet context, it is in application scope. In servlets, we have 3 scopes, but in JSP we have 4 scopes. One more scope is a page scope, which I will say, which I will tell later slowly. Okay, now here what this Java code doing is, it is creating an object of bean, setting an attribute, setting that bean as an attribute in the scope, session scope, right? And then it is setting a property of the bean. User class is a bean, and it is having 3 properties: name, city, country are properties of the bean, right? Now this code is just creating a bean object and setting its property. That's all. Getting the request parameter, of course, right? Now, will it not be good if I can eliminate this Java code totally? Yes. To eliminate Java code, in JSP there are some standard tags present, right? See here, there is a tag called JSP use bean. JSP colon use bean. What this tag will do, let us see clearly one by one. I'll tell you, slowly grasp it. JSP use bean. This bean tag, it is in a JSP, right? This is a code inside JSP. JSP will be translated to Java code. So for every tag, there will be some Java code which will be automatically generated by JSP translator, JSP container. So for this JSP use bean tag also, there will be a Java code which will be generated, right? What that Java code will do is, it will create an object of a bean and set it in one scope. Okay, now see here, I'm using, let me use it clearly, I'm using JSP use bean u, class is equals to user, scope is equals to session. Scope is equals to session. See now what this is doing. Duplicate local variable. Okay. Okay, what this tag will do is, this tag will be translated to some Java code, right? That translated Java code, what it will do is, here I specified what is the class, this is a bean name, this is a bean class name. I am saying JSP colon use a bean, whose class name is this one, and I gave an ID by using which I can identify it. Okay? This code will be translated into 2 lines. The code looks like this. See here, I will write it here. Okay, JSP use bean, this tag will be translated into the Java code. See what I am doing. It will create an object of user. Okay, com dot Accenture dot beans dot user, and the variable name is user is equals to null. Okay, then the second line will be session dot get attribute attribute name will be same as the ID whatever I gave. user is equals to, and typecast it to this one. Okay, now just assume that this is common extension user. I am typecasting it to user. Then if user is equals to null, then what it is doing is internal user is equals to new user. If you observe carefully, it is easy to understand, but it is a bit complicated here. Then session dot set attribute the attribute name is again same as whatever I give in the ID here. Comma the user object, this user object. Okay, this is how it is getting translated to this line. See the logic here. First understand the logic here. This single line, when this JSP is translated to a servlet, the JSP engine will translate this line into this Java code. What it is doing, see, it is first creating a reference of this class, whatever I mentioned here, the class. First it is creating a reference of this class, and the variable name is same as the ID whatever I am using here, right? It is null. It is trying to get an attribute. Attribute name is same as the ID here. Okay? If there is no such attribute, what it is doing? It is creating a new object and setting an attribute again with same name. But if attribute is there, this will not be executed, right? So now tell me, is it not looking similar to what I did in my scriptlet? See what I did in my scriptlet? I am creating a new user object and setting it as an attribute in session, right? Creating a new object and setting it in session. Forget about set name. Only talk about these. I am talking about these two lines. But before this, when it is doing this, only if there is no such attribute in session scope. If there is no such an attribute in session scope, this is executed. But what I did is, I know that here ask city.jsp is the second page. This is my first page, and ask city.jsp second page. I know that there is no attribute called user inside session till now. I directly wrote a code like this. Okay. But what the JSP usement tag will do? It will check whether there is an attribute with same as ID. Whatever I gave as ID here, it will look, is there any attribute called attribute with same name ID? If it is there, if it is not there, means if user is null, then only it is creating a new object and getting it. Otherwise it is not doing it, right? So just understand, I will finalize. JSP useBean tag will make sure that there is an object of type user, in this case, in that scope. It will first try to get it. If it is not there, it will create and put it there. Okay? Now what I can do is, after I do like this, I can write JSP colon set property. The name of the bean inside the scope is same as the ID. I want to set a property called name. See what I am doing, I am calling set name here, right? Corresponding to u.setName, this is the tag. Set a property called name on a bean called user. What is the value? Value, I will be getting it from the request scope. Request dot get parameter request dot get parameter. See here what I'm doing. I'll keep it in single quotes. And the parameter name is what? Uname. See now what I have achieved. I can remove this Java code now. I can remove this Java code. Now try to understand the meaning here. What will happen? This tag will check whether user object is there in the scope or not, session or not. If it is there, it will not do anything. Means this if loop will not be entered. If user object is there in session, it will not enter inside this loop. Right? If user object is not there, what it will do? It will create a user object and set it in the session attribute, as an attribute with same name, whatever I give as user. So now by writing this tag, what I am doing is I am making sure that there is an attribute called user in the session. Okay, see here, this useBean tag will make sure that user object will be there in that scope, and then this will set a property. Set a property of which bean? Bean name is same as whatever I give in the user. Right? With what value? Whatever it is getting from the request parameter. So now by using these two tags, useBean tag and set property, what I did? I eliminated all the Java code. But any Java code, can you see any Java code here right now? Yeah, this is the only Java code, right? This is the only Java code. I'll try to eliminate that also. Okay. Now coming again. Once they submit this page, it's going to ask country. Ask country is now having some Java code. What it is doing? It is also doing the same. It's getting the attribute from user from session, setting the city, right? Now see what I'll do here. In ask city.jsp, I'll replace this, copy paste the same code. Okay. Then I'll set a property called city. Request parameter is city. That's all. Now I can eliminate this code. Let us see how this same lines can eliminate that code. Now I am using JSP useBean again. Right? By the time it comes to this page, ask country.jsp, is there a bean called user? Is there a bean with this name in session scope? By the time it comes to ask country.jsp? Yes, it is there. So if a bean is there, see this code, see the translated code. See, it is trying to get an attribute called user. It is there. Now user variable will be pointing to user object. In that user object already previously I set name. Now user variable is pointing to user object which is already having name now. Now will this be executed? No. So JSP useBean tag. Here also this JSP useBean tag will be translated to same Java code here as shown here. But now this if will not be executed because attribute called user is already there in the session, right? So what is the use of JSP useBean tag now? It is making sure that user is already present in that scope, right? Then what am I doing? Already here this bean will be translated to this code, right? Now user is pointing to a user object which is already present in the session, and that user object is already having name. On that user object, on the same user object, I want to set city also. So what I did next? JSP set property of which bean name should be same as ID of this bean, property called city, with what value? Whatever value I am getting it from the request, right? So similarly, see here, now I can remove this Java code. Now coming to this, once I submit here, it is going to display.jsp. Here again display.jsp is having some Java code. I'll try to remove this. What I can do, I can copy paste the same lines, right? Now what this will make sure? It will again, this will be translated again to same code. It will try to get an attribute called user from the session. It is there, right? Here in this page, user will be pointing to user object which is present in session, but now that user object is already having name and city, right? Then next what I'll do is here, set property I'll call property called country. I'm getting a country, and set property request or get parameter country. Now what I'm doing, I am setting country in user object which is already in the session, right? So I can eliminate this code, Java code. I'll delete this Java code also. Now again, this Java code is still there, right? I want to eliminate. What am I doing? I am trying to display the property of a bean. Bean is user, not get name. I am trying to display name, a property called name of a bean called user, which is already present in session scope, right? So to display properties of a bean, we have another tag, JSP set property. Property, what is the bean name? Bean name is same as whatever I gave as ID here. Oh, set property came, sorry. Get property. Okay, name of the bean is same as a ID, whatever I gave here as ID, and I want to get a property called name of bean user. So I will say get property, property is equals to name. Similarly, if I want to display city, what I can do is, here I can change get property, property name is equals to city. Similarly here also get property, property name is equals to country, right? So is there any Java code right now? Only except this. Except this, there is no Java code. I tried to eliminate Java code by using some standard JSP tags like JSP use bean, JSP set property, JSP get property, right? But still I have values equals to, right? I'll try to eliminate this also. Before that, I'm going to eliminate this Java code also. Instead of writing value is equals to request get, because of get parameter, I will remove value is equals to, what am I assigning the value to? Request parameter, right? I am assigning the value from a request parameter only, right? So instead of saying like this, I will remove this and write param. What is the parameter name? Uname. Parameter name is uname. So what it will do? It will set a property called name of a bean called user with a request parameter called uname. So internally it will get the request parameter uname. It will set this property of this bean. So I eliminated that Java code also by using param is equals to uname. Similarly, in ask country also, I can eliminate this by using param is equals to, tell me, param is equal to city. I am getting a request parameter called city here. Similarly here also, I can say param is equals to country. So what this will do, it will get the request parameter country and then set a property called country of this bean. Okay? Alright. Now, still we are lazy. We don't want to write this much code also. There is even more shortcuts. See here, what is this user class? User class is having name, city, country, right? These are the names of the properties. If you make sure that property names are same as the request parameter names, this will be the request parameter on the submit uname. It is not same as the property of user. In user class, what is the name? What is the variable name, right? If I make sure that request parameter name is same as the instance variable, the property of the bean, like by making this name is equals to name, and here also in city, what is the request parameter? City. In user class also the variable name is city. This is fine. Here in user class the variable name is country. Here the variable name also is country. If I make sure that the request parameter names are same as the bean property names, what I can do is I can modify. I will remove this param is equals to also, and I can say property is equals to star. That's all. And property is equal to star means if any request parameter name is matching the property of the bean, then automatically we call it setter. Now I need to specify also property is equal to star. Similarly, what I can do, I can write the same line in all the classes, in all the JSPs. Here also I can say property is equals to star. What does it mean? Property is equal to star means, it means that if any request parameter name is matching this beans property name, means instance variable name, both are matching. Suppose if I get a request parameter called city, user also is having city variable, automatically this line will result in setting user dot set city, right? So by using this syntax, I can eliminate even param is equals to also. But if you want to use property is equal to star, what is the requirement? The request parameter name should be same as the instance variable name, the property name of your bean. Then only you will be able to do it. If your request parameter name is what? Here, whatever you are giving name is equals to. If this request parameter name is not same as the property name of the bean, then you cannot use property is equals to star. Okay? I want to make the scenario even complex. See now, user, is it a bean? User class, is it a bean? Yes. User is having city and country, right? What I will do is I'll change the user class. Okay? Let us see how I will change it. I will remove city and country from user. I will make my user class only to have name, and I will create another class for another class called address, which will have both the variables city and country. Private string city, private string country, then generate getters and setters. Then in user, what I am going to do is I am going to make address as a variable inside, user, generate getters and setters for address. Now tell me, is user class a bean? Is having a default constructor? All the variables are private, they are having public getters and setters. So user class is a bean. Tell me, address is also a bean or not? It is also a bean. It is having a default constructor, private variables, public getters and setters. Now, can I say that user class is composed of address? In Whoops, did you learn composition? User class is composed of address, composition. Or I can say that address is a nested bean of user. Address is also a bean which is inside user. So we can say that address is a nested bean. And I can I say that city is a nested property of address? Sorry, nested property of user. User is having address, address is having city. I can say city is nested property of user, right? Now, when we have a bean with nested properties, let us try to see the earlier case. Here, if I want to set a property by using JSP set property, and if I want to display it by using get property, it is not possible. By using JSP get property, you can display only, you cannot display the nested properties. of a bean. Here I am displaying, in this case if you see the highlighted one, you are displaying a property called name of a bean called user. If user is having address, I can see, can I say like this? Address dot city. See, it means that get a property from a bean called user. User is having a property called address and address is having city, right? So I can say city is a nested property of a bean called user. By using JSP get property, this is not possible. We cannot display the nested properties of a bean by using JSP get property. That is the limitation of JSP get property, right? To overcome this limitation, we have another concept called expression language. Okay, now we'll start with what is expression language. Okay, to demonstrate this example of expression language, I'll start a new project and start a new code. See it. New dynamic web project. Expression language app, EL app I'll say. Okay, see here I'll just have a very simple example. What I can do is, in this, to demonstrate expression language, I will write one servlet and one JSP. The servlet will forward internally to JSP, right? Before forwarding the request to JSP, I will set some attributes in request or session, and I will try to display them in JSP. Let us start. Let's go ahead. First, I will write a simple servlet, a new first package, com.accenture, and I'll write a new class, new servlet. EL servlet, EL demo servlet. I'll give the URL pattern as /e. Do get, I'll take finish. So here, very simple. I'll try to do simple things first, then I'll try to complicate it. I'll say request dot get parameter, request dot set attribute. I will set some name value pairs. I'll set an attribute. Attribute name, I'll set, say, Varun. Varun means what? Rain. Is it? Just I set Varun and rain as value. Now I'll forward to a JSP, that's all. Get servlet context dot get request dispatcher /display.jsp. I want to forward to a page called display.jsp dot forward request and response. That's all. I'm just setting an attribute in request and then forwarding it to JSP, right? Now I'll show you how to use expression language to display starting from this example. Usage of expression language. I'll write display.jsp inside web content. I'm going to write a JSP. JSP name is display. See, I want to display the attribute value of Varun. If I have to use scriptlets, tell me how I can display. I have to write expression like this is equals to request dot what? Get Attribute name is Varun. I just print meaning of Varun. Okay. See, this is how I am printing it. Now I will give a request to servlet. Now you can see I am giving meaning of Varun is